Entering the world of online dating requires a certain level of vulnerability, especially for someone fresh out of a difficult breakup. 27-year-old Sandy had finalized her divorce and decided to create a profile on a popular dating website to slowly get back out there. Just a few days after setting up a very basic profile, she received a strange notification in her personal email inbox. It wasn't an automated message from the dating site, it was a direct email from an unknown encrypted address. Sandy opened it. The email addressed her by her full legal name. The sender wrote a massive, rambling paragraph explaining that they knew all about her recent divorce, how lonely she must be feeling, and how they would make the perfect couple. The sender demanded that Sandy reply immediately to let him know her thoughts. At the bottom of the email was a single attachment. Assuming it was a picture of a guy from the dating app, she clicked it. It wasn't a face. It was a highly explicit, unsolicited picture of a man's anatomy. Disgusted and disturbed, Sandy assumed her bitter ex-husband was playing a cruel prank to intimidate her. She confronted him the next day. However, his reaction of genuine confusion and anger proved he had nothing to do with it. He simply wasn't the type to execute a digital harassment campaign. The emails didn't stop. Every day, the anonymous sender would flood Sandy's inbox with increasingly aggressive and angry messages, furious that she wasn't replying to his advances. Sandy did her best to ignore them, hoping the creep would eventually get bored and move on. But a week later, a new email arrived with the subject line, "You're ignoring me." Sandy opened the message. There was no text, just a single attached image file. When the picture loaded, Sandy's blood ran cold. It wasn't another explicit photo. It was a high-resolution photograph of the outside of Sandy's house. The picture had been taken at night, from the bushes right across the street, looking directly at her brightly lit living room window. Sandy immediately called the police and completely deleted her email accounts and dating profiles. The authorities couldn't trace the encrypted address. Sandy never found out who was standing in the dark outside her home or how they had connected her anonymous dating profile to her physical address. Our personal devices hold almost every detail of our lives, making a digital breach one of the most violating experiences possible. A few years ago, a Reddit user shared a terrifying story before deleting their account and disappearing from the platform entirely. It started on a quiet Tuesday evening. The user's cell phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. The text was short and demanding. "Check your email right now." Confused, the user opened his laptop and logged into his email account. Sitting at the top of his inbox was a new message from a scrambled random address. The subject line was written in all capital letters, "Download this now." The body of the email contained a single terrifying sentence. It addressed the user by his full first and last name, listed his exact home address, and included his personal cell phone number. Below the text were 5 attached files. 4 of them were image files, and the final one was an executable program file labeled "Download This Now X." With shaking hands, the user clicked on the first image. It was a picture of the front of his current house, taken during the day. He clicked the second image. It was a candid photograph of a young woman walking into a grocery store. After staring at it for a moment, he felt a sick knot form in his stomach. He recognized the woman. It was his mother. He clicked the third image. It was a scanned copy of a photograph of himself as a baby, a physical photo that was supposed to be safely locked inside a family album in a completely different state. Terrified, he clicked the fourth image. It was a dark, grainy webcam photo of a creepy, middle-aged man staring completely blankly into the camera. The user had absolutely no idea who this man was. The user didn't dare click on the fifth file, the executable program. He slammed his laptop shut, unplugged his router, and drove straight to the local police station to report the cyberstalking. The police took his laptop for forensic analysis, but the sender had covered their tracks flawlessly. To this day, the user has no idea who the man in the photo was, or what horrific malware would have been unleashed if he had clicked that final file. Working in a small, quiet community church in rural New York, Father David was used to receiving mundane emails about bake sales and community outreach programs. He managed a dedicated email address specifically for the church's public inquiries. Late one evening, while working alone in his small office behind the chapel, he was sorting through his inbox. He noticed a strange email that had bypassed the spam filter. It had no subject line and no sender name. Assuming it was an empty message, he clicked to open it. Instantly, his computer screen froze. The mouse cursor stopped responding. A high-pitched, digital whining noise erupted from the PC tower under his desk. A second later, the monitor flashed to a critical error, blue screen of death, and the computer completely shut down. Father David sighed, thinking his aging hardware had finally died. He reached under the desk and pressed the physical power button to restart the machine. The computer booted up unusually fast, bypassing the normal login screen. But when the desktop finally loaded, Father David stumbled backward in his chair. Every single file, folder, and document on his computer had been completely wiped. The screen was completely bare, except for the new desktop wallpaper. It was a massive, highly realistic, and shockingly disturbing image of a demonic, satanic figure staring directly at the screen. Father David frantically clicked the Start menu, trying to open an internet browser to find help or run an antivirus, but every program was completely locked out. He was trapped in the machine. Then, the true horror began. Through the small, cheap computer speakers sitting on his desk, an audio file began playing on a continuous loop. It was the sound of distorted, heavy, and sinister laughter playing in the background. It sounded like it was right inside the empty church office with him. Father David physically yanked the power cord out of the wall, killing the machine instantly. The cyber attack was likely a cruel, targeted prank by a skilled hacker with too much time on their hands. But sitting alone in an empty church, listening to a demonic laugh coming from a compromised machine, was an experience Father David would never forget. In the year 2009, a massive, silent digital plague swept across the internet. It was a wave of highly sophisticated, malicious emails designed to prey on everyday people looking to save money during the recession. A young college student named Emily fell right into the trap. She received an email that looked incredibly legitimate, bearing the logo and branding of a major retailer. The subject line read, "Free 40% off coupons to Target. Print now." Excited to save money on groceries, Emily opened the email and clicked the large red button to download her coupons. A small loading window appeared, flashed for a split second, and then vanished. No coupons ever loaded. Emily simply assumed the link was broken, closed the browser, and went about her day. What she didn't know was that the link had silently forced a background installation of a highly aggressive remote access Trojan virus, or RAT, directly onto her hard drive. For the next 2 weeks, Emily used her laptop normally in her dorm room. She changed her clothes in front of it, watched movies in bed with it resting on her chest, and typed in her bank passwords. One night, Emily was lying in the dark, trying to fall asleep. Her laptop was sitting open on her desk across the room, completely asleep with a black screen. Suddenly, in the pitch black of the room, a tiny green LED light clicked on. It was the indicator light next to her laptop's built-in webcam. Emily froze in her bed. The screen was still completely off, but the camera was active. Someone, somewhere in the world, had silently turned on her camera and was watching her sleep in the dark. She jumped out of bed, slammed the laptop shut, and pulled the battery out. She later discovered that the virus had given an anonymous hacker complete administrative control over her machine, allowing them to monitor her keystrokes, view her screen, and secretly spy on her through her own camera. The 2009 virus wave eventually died down, but the terrifying reality that someone could be watching you through a black screen changed the way people looked at their devices forever. Jen was an incredibly bright and popular freshman in high school. Because of her striking appearance, she unfortunately attracted the attention of a lot of older boys and sometimes creeps who had no business being around a high school. Midway through her freshman year, Jen received an email in her student inbox. The sender address appeared to belong to the Dean of Students. The message was formal, explaining that her recent academic performance had been slipping and the dean wanted to discuss ways to improve her grades. Strangely, at the very bottom of the message, there was a strict instruction. Do not reply to this email. Just make sure you attend the meeting. Jen was an honors student, so the claim about her grades was confusing, but she didn't want to get in trouble. A week passed without incident. Then, a second email arrived from the dean. The message requested that she meet him behind the school cafeteria near the loading docks at 7 a.m. sharp the following morning, before the rest of the faculty and students arrived. The next day, Jen walked to school early. The sun had barely risen, and the campus was completely deserted and eerily quiet. She walked around the side of the brick building, heading toward the large green dumpsters by the loading dock. As she approached the designated meeting spot, she stopped. The dean wasn't there, but someone else was. Poking their head out from behind the edge of the heavy metal dumpster was a man. He was wearing a dark hoodie, and the moment he saw Jen, he quickly pulled his head back behind the dumpster, trying to hide. Every instinct in Jen's body screamed that this was a trap. She didn't call out. She turned around and sprinted as fast as she could back toward the main road, running all the way back to her house. When her furious parents contacted the school administration, the real dean was completely baffled. He had never sent any emails to Jen. The school's IT department launched an investigation. They discovered that the emails hadn't come from the school's servers. They had been sent using an anonymous proxy website designed to spoof official email addresses. The most chilling part was when they traced the IP address of the sender. The emails hadn't come from a hacker in another country. The IP address was traced directly to a public computer sitting in the furthest, darkest corner of the local town library, just 2 blocks away from Jen's house. Whoever tried to lure her behind the dumpsters that morning was local. They had been watching her, and they had carefully planned their trap.